seen this? Whatever we did had some crazy ripple effects.
There was a plane crash, riots, disasters. None of this happened before.
Things are spiraling out of control.
You didn't care that all of your friends could be hurt?
Jesse's missing and no one can find
David,
her.
it's me.
Jess, no!
I'm going back to the beginning.
It could kill you.
That's the only way to stop all this from happening.
Go shoot!
Now that trailer definitely shows you a lot of the cool things about Project Almanac, but it doesn't really show you the stuff that doesn't work overall, which, to be honest, are very few things. But welcome to Time About the Movies, everybody. Today we are taking a look at the 3 films that wrap up January 2015, and we're starting off with probably the best overall movie this week. In fact, I know it's probably the best movie this week, Project Almanac, or as it was called for a little bit before this, Welcome to Tomorrow, or Welcome to Yesterday, I think it was, but yeah, I think they changed it because of the whole Edge of Tomorrow debacle, how they changed the title to from Live, Die, Repeat to Edge of Tomorrow or something like that. But this is a movie where, as you see from the trailer, kind of similar to another movie that was released around this time period and did very, very well, Chronicle, 3 years ago. This is a story about a group of high school students who build a time machine after one of their friends sees an old video from their 7th birthday party and sees one of those kids as a much older as themselves today in there, realizing that something's going on here. So they find all this stuff from his father, and they essentially go back in time to all these different things. You can go back in time to all these different things, but of course they mess around with time travel. You see a little bit in the trailer there how, you meet your other self, and you essentially, it's kind of like the time cop method, same matter cannot occupy same space. All it was missing was Van Damme to come in there and go like, I'm still kicking, I must be on Broadway, and kicks him right into himself, and he turns into like this gigantic slop creature. If you don't know what I'm talking about, watch Time Cop. That's probably one of his best Actually, no, that's probably his second best movie that Jean-Claude Van Damme ever did, behind Sudden Death. But what am I talking about Jean-Claude Van Damme for? This is Project Almanac, and I'll be honest, when I came into this movie, I had heard about, how the movie was like sitting on a shelf for a couple of years. This has been a movie that had been tossed around for a few years. It was actually greenlit well after the success of Chronicle, I think in October of that year. And, Paramount left it on a shelf for a couple of years and basically threw it out here on Super Bowl weekend because, everyone's going to be watching that game against the Patriots and the Seahawks, and we all know how that... Excuse me. Sorry about that. And we all know how that turned out, but I mostly went into this mostly bored because there wasn't any other big new releases that I had seen that I really wanted to get out and see. I had already seen Paddington. I had already seen American Sniper, and I went into it going like, okay, I'll see this. It has a cool idea to it. Maybe it'll turn out to be good. I'm not expecting it to be another Chronicle. And I actually came out of it liking it a lot more than I could have imagined. It's not a great movie overall. You can definitely tell there are a lot of flaws to it. There are some good ideas to it overall. Like, I like the idea that, these characters get to see themselves, and when they do that, it's like they start to disappear and all that type of stuff. And but the whole thing that kind of bothered me about it was the fact that it really didn't know how to handle the continuity of everything. Like, as you see, like, when they go back in time, they're messing around with all these different things. Like, when they go back in time one time, and then all of a sudden there's a plane crash where 77 people get killed. And then there's, like, riots breaking out. It's just, like, nothing really makes a whole lot of sense when you watch the film in general. It's just a movie where it kind of feels like there's a good idea to it, but the execution overall doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Chronicle worked because they took an idea that was really cool and gave an explanation to everything that was going on. Why are these guys getting superpowers? Why is this one character so using his powers for evil and all that type of stuff? And what's the chaos that comes after that? Like, that movie makes sense. Here, it really does feel like Paramount's trying to copy the success of Chronicle, but they don't have a fully realized script to make it work overall. And it's not a bad movie. It's far from a bad movie. It's an enjoyable movie. I like the young actors they have in here. You have Johnny Weston, Sophia Black-D'Elia, Sam Lerner, Virginia Gardner, Amy Landiker, who had been on Transparent and House of Lies before this. This is directed by Dean Israelite, who he and producer Michael Bay were working in on their next movie, Power Rangers, which was also a real big surprise when that came out. We'll get to that in 2017. I think this movie had a lot of good ideas to it. They take most of the opportunities they had for it. If it had been better structured like Chronicle did, its story, I feel like you could have had something really, really great here. But what you get here is a movie that is very solid, not the worst movie ever, and for a movie that's coming out in the dumping month of January, and especially considering what's going to come up after we talk about this film, yeah, this film definitely looks a lot better by comparison overall. So, not a bad movie, far from it. I think it is a solidly entertaining movie. I think it has a lot of good ideas. Doesn't really fully realize them when it's all said and done, but it does leave a lasting impact on you in terms of a film that you go see it, it's just kind of like, yeah, I had a good time with it. I remember liking it. I still remember liking it to this very day. There was nothing about it that made me feel offended by it. It's a good movie. It's a really good film. It's one I definitely recommend checking out if you haven't seen it already. Project Almanac. So with all that said, let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, which is Kevin Costner and Octavia Spencer starring in the drama Black or White.
You need to leave now.
Academy Award winner Kevin Costner. Academy Award winner Octavia Spencer.
This isn't about black and white. This is about Eloise.
Black or White. Rated PG-13. In theaters January 30th.
And sadly, no, the Michael Jackson song Black or White does not appear in this movie whatsoever, so that's one strike against it, you know. I mean, that really could have helped the movie in the end, really. If you're thinking about my baby, it don't matter if you're black or white. Okay, I'll stop. But this is directed by Mike Binder, and the last time that Costner and Binder worked together, it was on The Upside of Anger, which was a really good movie. This one, not so much. Kevin Costner stars as Elliot Anderson, who's widowed after a car crash leads to the death of his wife. At the funeral, Rowena, played by Octavia Spencer, his granddaughter Eloise's paternal grandmother, offers to care for Eloise, played by Gillian Estelle, but Elliot angrily declines. Elliot raises his granddaughter as he struggles with his grief by binge drinking. Elliot's world is turned upside down when Rowena demands that Eloise be brought under the care of her father Reggie, played by Andre Holland. Rowena's son, who is addicted to drugs and whom Elliot blames for the negligence that led to the pregnancy and the death of his own daughter, Elliot soon finds himself deeply entrenched in a custody battle and will stop at nothing to keep his granddaughter from coming under the watch of her reckless father. So, there's kind of the problem with the movie here. It's a story we've kind of seen done to death before, and it's a movie that's trying to, you know, it's trying to open up an argument about the racial divide between white people and black people, and I get what they're trying to do here. It's a noble cause, but the execution just doesn't play very well in this movie here. The performances overall are very good. You have a lot of good performances from people like, people you don't really expect to do all that well. Like, one of the big ones is Bill Burr, who, you know, he's mostly known for his comedy work, but he does play a good dramatic role in this film. Jennifer L., Gillian Jacobs from Community, Paula Newsome, Anthony Mackie. There is a strong cast involved in this movie, and like I said, there are a lot of good ideas to it. There are a lot of ideas where the film does have a taste of what they're trying to get across here, but by the end of it, it's just kind of like, yeah, we've seen this kind of story done before, and I think a critical review kind of summed it up best when it says that the well-intentioned family drama never quite shakes free from its didactic movie of the week dramaturgy and a hand-holding approach to race relations. I mean, this literally feels like a movie that 20 years ago, this would have been like the ABC premiere presentation, the movie of the week on like ABC, CBS, NBC, one of those networks. This doesn't feel like a movie that it's something that should stand up on its own merits, but it only feels that way because you got caliber Oscar talent like Kevin Costner and Octavia Spencer, who have won awards for, I wouldn't say much better movies. Dances with Wolves is okay, and The Help, I think, is a really good movie, but yeah, this is a movie they were really pushing for an Oscar push. This was supposed to be a limited release, but then they just pushed it to January, maybe because they realized that, yeah, this story's been done to death before, and we're not getting the push that we wanted, so, yeah, just dump it in January, and yeah, you could definitely see why. I mean, it's not a bad movie, but it's just a movie we've seen done to death before. I feel like there are much better films that have this type of a storyline that do it better. Like, one of the ones I thought of recently was Losing Isaiah, which isn't a great movie, but you can at least see something different, something a little bit more. It gives it a little bit more of an edge overall than this movie does. I mean, that's not a great movie, but it's a film where you get an idea of what they're trying to accomplish. But yeah, this one just feels like it's been done to death before, and I feel like if this had not had the talents of Kevin Costner or Octavia Spencer, this would have been something you would have easily seen as the Lifetime Movie of the Week or something on BET. But yeah, this just didn't work. So yeah, a hard skip on Black or White. So let's go ahead and move on to our last movie, which is easily the dumbest of the movies we have this week. Even though it doesn't really feel that way at first. But we'll delve into it when we talk about The Loft.
I know what you're hiding.
theaters January 30th.
Now, when you first look at this, it's not like the movie shows really any that big of a sign of something absolutely awful. It just looks like kind of a generic erotic thriller, if you even want to call it that, which really, it's not, you don't really see a whole lot, but once you really delve into this, we're going to touch on why this movie is so terrible as we go along here, but the plot of this movie is that you have five guys, the architect Vincent Stevens, played by Carl Urban, the psychiatrist Chris Van Noen, played by James Marsden, the real estate agent Luke Secord, played by Wentworth Miller from Prison Break, and Marty Landry, played by Eric Stonestreet from Modern Family, along with Chris's half-brother Philip, played by Matthias Skunowitz. I have no idea if I'm pronouncing that name correctly, but they're married and are best friends. Vincent has designed a brand new building and proposes that he and his friends share one of the wonderful penthouse lofts. This would allow them to hook up with other women without worrying about hotel charges showing up on their credit cards. When they discover the body of a beautiful woman cuffed and on the bed in the loft, they argue over whom is responsible, and secrets are disclosed affecting their friendship. So, on paper, it does not sound like a bad movie, but let's really go back to the five guys that they have here. Vincent Stevens, you have Carl Urban, James Marsden, Wentworth Miller, Eric Stonestreet, and Matthias Skunowitz. Again, I don't know if I'm even pronouncing that name correctly, but they're your five guys who are going to have these mistresses. Does that seem odd to anybody? Especially with the gay guy from Modern Family being one of those guys who's straight in real life, and it's actually funny because Jesse Tyler Ferguson is kind of the straight guy in the relationship, but he's more. I think he's the gay guy, and he's gay in real life, if I'm not mistaken. Am I right on that? I think I'm right on that. Yeah, I am right. He is gay, but Jesse Tyler Ferguson is not Eric Stonestreet, but the dude from Modern Family being involved in this, that right there should probably tell you, yeah, this is going to lead to disaster right away, because none of these characters are likable at all. You do not like one single person in this entire group whatsoever, because they're smug. They're the type of people who go like, "Hey, bro," to each other. Like, they're those type of assholes, and you know, you're supposed to feel for the women, but you also hate them too, because, yeah, it's just like, everybody in this movie is really stupid. Everybody is really much an idiot. The fact that they did this, so the whole thing was just like, well, if we do this, they'll never figure out who we are, because they won't be able to charge this room. It's just like, okay, well, what happens when somebody takes the room, and then they realize and then you go in there, about to have a way with this lady, and then all of a sudden you go in there, and there's people in there, it's just like, whoops. But not only that, like, again, the whole thing is just so convoluted and so stupid. The whole thing makes no sense whatsoever. And, you know, the whole thing just doesn't work because there's nothing about anything in here that's new or intriguing, and you don't care about anybody whatsoever. Like, the main people in this movie, everybody in this movie is scumbags, and not even good scumbags, lazily written scumbags. Like, I mean, it makes sense that this movie is as bad as it is, because guess how long this movie has been sitting on a shelf? 4 years. I'm not even kidding. This thing was filmed back in 2011. This thing was supposed to be released by Warner Brothers and Dark Castle Entertainment. However, when Joel Silver moved over to Universal, he took this movie over to there. And then Universal decided it was going to have a big release in the summer of 2014, but then they replaced it with As Above, So Below, which I don't really think it would have won either way, but then they dropped it in the month of January because they realized nobody's going to come see this movie. And keep in mind, Universal has a much bigger erotic thriller that's supposed to come out 2 weeks later in 50 Shades of Grey, which, yeah, so if they think that they were dumping this movie. There was no way this movie was going to make any money whatsoever, and this is the problem with erotic thrillers nowadays. Like, you need to be smarter with your erotic thrillers. You need to go back to the days of when Brian De Palma was at his peak, or stuff like Basic Instinct, which was the last great erotic thriller we ever had. I mean, I can't even think of anyone that's come close to that, but the problem is that when you try to do a new erotic thriller for a new generation, you gotta go all in, and not play it safe, because this movie plays it way too. It's trying to be slick and sleazy, but it's playing it way too safe for its own good. And it doesn't help that the characters are such a mismatched group of people that you cannot trust any one of these people. Like, a group that includes Carl Urban, James Marsden, Wentworth Miller, Eric Stonestreet, and the fifth guy, which I'm not even going to bother trying to butcher his name anymore. Yeah, this is a group that's clearly, like, the Hangover guys would look at this and go like, yeah, we don't trust you guys. We're going to go do something else. Like, I mean, that's how bad this whole thing is. And even when the revolution is made about who's responsible for the woman that gets killed, like, I mean, it's not even worth it at the end. It's just kind of like, it's a waste of your time overall. And you're sitting there for almost 2 hours trying to figure this whole thing out. And when they get to it, it's just kind of like, really, that's it? That's the reason why we're all here? And it's just like, yeah, it just doesn't work. It's a movie that is just doomed from the start, wasting all this talent on a story that makes no sense, with terrible characters, a lack of sex appeal from anybody in this. Like, this is a bad movie. This is a really, really bad film. I mean, this is about the typical definition of a bad January dumping movie. It just, I mean, what else could I tell you, man? It's fucking terrible. Avoid the loft like the plague. No one else have actually used that line, actually. But, yeah, avoid the loft like the plague. And so, with all that said, we wrap up another episode of Time About the Movies, and we'll jump into a brand new month. It's February, so that means the time has now come for the movies to get better, right? Well, at least in one case it'll be. We've got the SpongeBob movie, Sponge Out of Water, which was a film that everyone was expecting to be another one of these fish out of water, Smurfs-like movies, but actually turns out to be a whole lot better than you can imagine. Then we have the Wachowski brothers with Channing Tatum and Mila Kunis working on the potential new sci-fi franchise, which, of course, it isn't, Jupiter Ascending. We also have, if you thought The Loft was a flop, wait until you see The Seventh Son, which, yeah, that's another major flop from Universal, and we're going to touch on that one. We got 3 more films to take a look at next time we meet here on Time About the Movies. That'll be tomorrow, of course, but, with all that said, thank you so much for watching this. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please go ahead and do me the honors of hitting that like button, that subscribe button, and that notification button. Also, don't forget to check out our playlist, and don't forget to check out the previous episode we did. So with all that said, whether it's in the past, the present, or the future, I will see you at the movies. Take care.